when we come in, Oklahoma got to be a state.
Yeah.
You plow all day for an acre.
Mm-hmm.
And now they go out there and in 5 minutes they got plowed more than an acre already.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, today is November 4th.
You might put this down.
Today is November 4th, 1987. This is Joe Todd and Bernice Jackson. An interview with Mr. Robert Fechner in Shattuck, Oklahoma. Mr. Fechner, where were you born?
In Jerusalem.
What town?
Tarutino, Bessarabia. Tarutino is a town, and Bessarabia, you see. I don't know what that is for, but we come from Bessarabia. That'd be more like Oklahoma, I imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And when's your birthday?
9th of September.
What year?
1997.
1897?
1897, yeah.
Who was your father?
Ludwig Fechner.
And your mother?
Louise Fechner.
What was her name before she was married?
Khaldun. Khaldun.
How do you spell that name?
Well, you got me.
What type of work did your father do in Russia?
Well, he was a farmer, but his most work was grapes. You want me to put my recorder on? Or maybe you ain't recorded it yet.
Yeah. What did your father do with grapes?
But the grapes he made wine. He made wine, you see, and sold it. But he had a house where the other people come from the other countries, you know, from Poland, and they come to the market like Woodruff stock market. But you can bring anything you want to down on the market. And you buy a piece of land, you rent a piece of land, costs you so much, see? And you pay so much for that piece of ground where you put your wine or horse or whatever you got on there. Well, and that's all you have to pay. You don't have to pay how much you sold or anything like that, you see. And that all went to the town. See, to the town. And the town went and paid the doctor bill and the lawyer and all those, like it'll be in this place here, you see. There's where the money went to. Yeah.
How much land did your father have rented?
Well, I couldn't hardly tell you how much land he had, but he had quite a bit. He had, now I know 6 acres that he never sold when he left Russia. He never sold it. He just, if he didn't like it, he was going to come back, you see, to Russia again. And it had a tree on there, wasn't an apple tree, but that fruit on it. I forgot what kind of fruit it was. Apricots, yeah, apricots. And after the Russians all left, I got a letter from Germany there before there was, or it might have been in Russia where it was, I don't know. And I asked for my teacher, you know, what was my teacher. Kragenbrink was his name. I asked him if that tree was still there. He said, yes, it was still there when they left. What become of it, I don't know. But the other land, my dad had a sale, a 2-day sale. When he sold everything, you see. It took 2 days to sell everything. And the wheat harvest, they didn't have much wheat. I almost say maybe 20 acres. And they cut it with the cents, you see. And then the women folks come and picked it up and put it in bundles. And they took the wheat and put it on the bundle, you see, the wheat bundle, and set it up there. That's the way they were going to wheat. An awful lot of work.
Oh, yeah. Did you help your father in the vineyards?
Well, I went along, but I was 9 years old, you see. I went along, but I didn't do much work. But I had to bring water. When they wanted water, they used to drink wine. He had some wine made. It would be more like pops, you know. You wouldn't get drunk, but it stimulates you. It made the blood a little better, they said. And they didn't drink much water, mostly white.
What type of grapes was your father raising?
He had white and red ones. White and red. Now, didn't have very many white. He had one barrel. When they got through cutting it there, got one barrel in the end of the cellar. Had a cellar, must have been about 40 feet wide and about 40 feet long, you know. And had barrels on both sides. And the barrels, they stood up about like that high and about 10, 12 foot long. And that the wine, the white wine, it was for the wedding, things like that, you know. Had it in the end of the barrel. But the rest of them was all stacked along on the side, both sides.
How did your father make the wine?
Well, he had to go and get people, you know, 15 or 20 people to go and cut it off and bring it in. They cut it off, and then at the one wagon that brought to the house where he lived, you see, the farm where he lived. And my dad, he was right there. He wasn't out there in the field he had hard hands. And they brought it out there, and then they had to kind of cut it up a little bit, you see, through a mill, a press mill or something like that, cut it up and put it in the barrel, and then put some water in, and that fumigate, you see. That he might have to work about 6 or 7 days till he got through with that. And took a lot of barrels. And my dad started up real early to get them barrels tightened, you see. Them rims are on there, tightened up, and then put water in, see whether they was okay or not. It took a lot of work.
How long did it take for the wine to ferment from the grapes to the wine?
Well, I couldn't say that, but it took so long. People that make the grapes here would probably know, but my dad probably told how long it took, but I just forgot.
Yeah. How big was the town that you lived in?
Well, we call it a dorf, you see. It's more like Main Street. There's here, and here, and here, and then over here. But we lived in the middle, on the Main Street, just like Shattuck. He lived on the Main Street.
How many? Oh, go ahead.
What was the question?
How large was the town? How many people lived in the town?
Oh, I don't know that, but there several thousand. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a big place.
What was your house made of that you lived in?
Just like my dad made that one he built when we come in here are rocks and mud. See, and the floor, it was with dirt, and it was smeared over. It was just as slick as this is here. The floor, and the roof was made out of I don't know what you call it, but they went out to the dam, you know. The dam is the stuff grows way up high. You probably know more about it than I do. It grows way up high. And they took that in bundles and laid them for the roof. There was no shingles or anything like that. And laid them on the roof this way. Maybe that thick, so the water could run off. I remember that.
How did your father build the walls of the house?
They do it from dirt, clay, and rock, and straw. Straw, you see, they went and put the dirt down, and then they hauled straw on top of the dirt, and then they put a lot of water on there, and then took two horses, and I was riding the horses that is when we come in here, when we built this house. I was riding two horses to strump that down, you see. That straw made it stick together more. And then he laid more like cement, you see. He put the dirt on top of the rock when he started, and then he put the on there, and then he put another piece of rock here, and put the dirt on here, you see, and put the rock on there. That's meshed it all up. That's all was tight. That's the way he built it.
How thick was the wall?
Oh, there was, say, about 18 inches to 20 inches thick.
And then how high were the walls?
About 8 foot. About 8 foot. Yeah.
What about windows?
Well, windows, I knocked one window out one time. That company, and he was teasing me. It was kind of ice frozen on the ground, you know. It got cold out there. And I took that piece and I threw it at it, you know. He teased me. I was 9 years old. He teased me and I threw it and it went right through the window. Yeah.
I understand. Did you have two windows in the wall, one on the inside, one on the outside?
No, just one window in the middle.
Just one window, okay.
In the middle, yeah. But my dad had one house here where he lived, and then maybe the one from town, from the Russian guys, big shot, you know. He had an extra room. I paid Dad so much for that room. He didn't want to be down there where the jail is and where all the people are. He wanted to be there by himself. He had a lot of books to read here. And we lived in here. But the outhouse, you see, had to go outside. Had a pot in each room. And that's the way that it was there.
What about your water?
Water? Mm-hmm. We had to get the water from downtown. We had to get it there. All the people that lived in that town had to go to that one well there. To that one well. And get that drinking water up to the house. And they had a big tank, see, where they put the water in when they brought it.
Could you tell us about your mother's furniture? What type of furniture did your mother have in the house?
Well, I tell you, they had the furniture more built on the walls, you see. That is cupboards and things like that. But bed just about more like they had was here, but made out of wood. Bed was made out of wood, no iron.
How large was the house?
Oh, it must have been about 60 foot long and about 30 feet wide.
Oh, pretty good sized house then.
Oh yeah.
Was it one big room or was it divided?
No, divided up.
Mhm.
Yeah, we had bedrooms. There was about 7 or 8 boys out there, and 2 girls. My father had 13 children. My mother had it, but I guess he was the cause of it. And there's sometimes 2 in one room, sleeping in 2 beds in one room. Sometimes there's 1 bed. That's the way the rooms was made.
Mhm.
Yeah.
How did you heat the house in the wintertime?
In the wintertime, there was a big stove made out of mud. And it was built like this. And it must have been about 12 foot long. And heat with straw. See? And the walls was about that thick. You heat that up, that lasts all day. And then when Mama wanted the big bread, you see, that's 2, 3 of the neighbors got together and they all baked bread in one day. And they put it in there. They warmed it up. They knew how hot to get it, you see. And they put the bread in there and go away. And that heat, that baked the bread. And the bread was made round like this. Cut up that high. Good bread.
Did you have any farm animals, cattle, sheep?
Yeah, my dad had 4 head of horses, but no sheep, and had pigs, and 1 cow. Couldn't keep very many cows. And those cattle, they had to drive them out to the pasture, you see. The cows here, and the horses had another place. The man drives out. You have to have it out there. If you didn't have it out there, you have to drive your cow by yourself because you can't catch them. But certain time they come by. And then they drive them out there, and the man stayed with them all day by the cattle. And they had one place to water the cattle out there. But the horses, they had to bring them in the night time, and they had the water there, and they had a fence around, a wooden fence where the horses go in. Then every night, if you want your horse, or 2 horses, or 3 horses, whatever you want, you have to come and get them there. That's so many hours to stay there in the evening. But the cows, they brought them down, and each cow knew just exactly where to go. They walked right up in the yard, the cows. Yeah, but the horses, you have to go and get them. If you weren't there, when the time comes, when they drove them back out, the step, they call it, in the pasture. It was quite a ways out of town. Yeah.
How far from the house was the barn?
Was what?
The barn where you kept the horses?
Oh, must have been about 200 feet, I guess. Yeah. But when they didn't need them.
Yeah.
But if we didn't need them, but they went back out. Yeah.
Tell me about the winters there. How bad were the winters?
Well, it got pretty cold, but not as cold as in the North Russians, where the Germans come now. My neighbors, they're all from the Volga, you see. And that ice froze awful thick out there. They could took machinery across the ice in wintertime. But we had snow too, but it didn't last as long as what it changed more like in Oklahoma. And we had sleds, put the horses on the sleds, you know, and when we want to go to church, we usually walked to church. It was about 2 or 3 blocks from us, the church. And the school was right there close by the church.
What What church did you attend?
Lutheran church.
Lutheran.
Yeah,
Okay.
Lutheran church.
Can you tell me how you celebrated Christmas in Russia?
Yeah, we went to church on Christmas Eve, you know, just like we do in America. And church was an Eve. And then when we come home, and we got candy and stuff like that, you know, out there. And when we come home and went to bed, well, then mother and dad, they done that after we went to bed, put the chair over here, the chair over there, and put brooms. One broom on here, and chairs, so many kids, 13 kids, you know. And of course, some of them already had died while we left Russia. But maybe it was 10 or 11 of them living yet. And then the next morning we got up, and each one had his name on there, on the sock. And had to take the sock, you see, and get his candy. And had the Christmas tree, Tannenbaum we called it. Yeah.
Was most of the people in the town, were they Germans?
Yeah, most of all German. But down on the marketplace, there was some Russians, you see. Yeah, on the marketplace.
Was there ever much trouble between the Germans and the Russians in the town?
No, they just lived like here, niggers and the white men, the black and the white. Yeah, they got along just fine.
Would you tell me when the Germans first went to Russia?
No, I don't know when, but my grandpa, he come from Russia. But how long? He died before I was born. But he come from Russia. My dad was telling about, and they gave each one of them so much land, you see, and they must have given them something to farm with too. I don't know. But anyway, they built all this up. They had to dig in the ground first when they first come there, you see, to make a place to live. And after they raised crops and things like that, then they went to build up.
Do you know what part of Germany your grandfather came from?
No, I don't. I couldn't say.
And how far was your town from the Volga?
Well, it must have been about 100 miles, or maybe more than that.
Oh, so you're quite a ways from the Volga River.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We never did go up there.
Okay.
But we just heard our neighbors talk to that come from out there, the old people. How cold it was there.
Tell us about the schools in Russia.
And what?
The schools.
School?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I went to school, had to learn half a day German and half a day Russian. Yeah, that's the way we had to do it. Half a day German, half a day Russian.
So you learned both languages.
Yeah, but I didn't learn very much.
Oh, you didn't?
That is Russian.
Uh-huh.
I didn't learn very much.
Mm-hmm. And did they have a grade system just like we do here?
Grades?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they had the grades. I was in the first and second grade there. We had one teacher teach both classes.
And how long school day did you have, and how many months did you go?
Well, I don't know exactly how many months, but we went to school at 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah.
And got out at
3 o'clock.
3.
3 o'clock in the afternoon, yeah.
And how many months in the year?
Oh, we must have went about 8 months, I imagine. About 8 months.
Why did your family decide to leave Russia?
Well, we had some uncles in here already, you see, and they wrote letters out there. How much more handier it was here in America. Corn. You see, we picked that corn with the ears out in Russia and hauled it in the granary. And then in the wintertime, when people didn't have much work, they all come together and shock that corn, you see. And sometimes there was a red one in there. And when you got a red one, well, then you got a premium, maybe a glass of wine, or maybe a donut or something. You see, you got a premium. So that made them work more faster to find the red one, you see. And then at certain times, so long, they put a pan out there, and you have to, when you hit that pan, you see so many times, well, then you got a prize. See, everybody made them work a little faster all the time. I can remember that.
And the people helped each other.
Huh?
The people helped each other.
Oh, yeah. They worked one night here and one night over there by the other neighbor, you see. And that's the way they changed around. They had it all fixed.
Did you help your father butcher?
Butcher?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, he butchered.
Tell me about it.
Well, they butchered and then they canned the stuff, you see. Cooked it in I don't know whether they had jars or not. I couldn't say that. I couldn't forgot that. But anyway, they canned most of it. Of course, there wasn't no like anything to freeze, you know. But the geese, my mother raised quite a few geese all the time, and they butchered the geese and they canned too, but the breast and the legs, you know, big part. The chimney come up here from the stove up so wide, and then on top it was built out way wider, and there's where they smoked the stuff. You see, the meat if they had some meat to smoke, or a goose or a duck or whatever it was. Yeah, that's the way they smoked it out there. They put straw in the stove, then you see, and that smoke went up through there.
That made good eating.
Huh?
That made good eating.
Oh yeah, you know, you go take that, especially the ham from the goose, you know, slice a piece off there for dry, you know, but it tasted good. Yeah.
Would you describe some of the meals that your mother fixed in Russia?
Yeah, Tefke and Klebe, Puderklees, I think they call it here, and strudel. You roll the dough out real thin, then put a little then go like this, a little bit more, get it real thin, then put a little more lard on and then work it again a little bit, and then you roll it up, more like a sausage, like, you know. I just had some 2 weeks ago. One of my boys come from Oklahoma City. He lives there. No, he lives in Tulsa. And he brought the stuff, the ribs and the flour and everything for us already. And that thing that you make it out with, she brought all that long. She thought I wouldn't have it, but I had one. That was strudels. And cold cleaver, cabbage rolls. Mother fixed them. And then soup, borscht. You know what borscht is, don't you?
It's beets.
Borscht, that is, you cut it all up, vegetable soup, more like vegetable soup, you see. Borscht. Yeah, they had all kinds.
That was a mixture of vegetables.
Yeah, they call it borscht.
Yes. Well, did your mother raise a garden every year?
Oh yeah, we raised some garden, yeah. Yeah, we raised some garden.
Did you have fruit trees?
Oh yeah, we had fruit trees. Yeah, apricots, apples, peaches,
Well, how long were the winters in Russia?
The winter, well, they was pretty long. They longer than what they are here, but not was too bad. Bonnie's still down. Maybe it didn't come up.
It's going.
Well, I'm wondering, what kind of a stove did your mother have to cook the rest of the meal on? You explained about the bread baking.
Yeah, well, the stove where she cooked on, it was made out of dirt and heat with, there was no gas or anything like that, you see, but with straw.
Was straw the main fuel?
Yeah, yeah. They had big straw stacks, you see, when they threshed the wheat and the corn stalks, the corn leaves, you see, and everything was saved. They were not thrown away. Yeah, they had big straw stacks, you see, when they threshed the wheat and the corn stalks, the corn leaves, you see, and everything was saved. They were not thrown away. Roll it up. More like a sausage, like, you know. I just had some 2 weeks ago. One of my boys come from Oklahoma City. He lives there. No, he lives in Tulsa. And he brought the stuff, the ribs and the flour and everything for us already. And that thing that you make it out with, she brought all that long. She thought I wouldn't have it, but I had one. That was strudels. And cold cleaver, cabbage rolls. Mother fixed them. And then soup, borscht. You know what borscht is, don't you?
It's beets.
Borscht, that is, you cut it all up, vegetable soup, more like vegetable soup. Borscht. Yeah, they had all kinds.
That was a mixture of vegetables.
Yeah, they call it borscht.
Yes. Well, did your mother raise a garden every year?
Oh yeah, we raised some garden. Yeah, yeah, we raised some garden.
Did you have fruit trees?
Oh yeah, we had fruit trees. Yeah, apricots, apples, peaches.
Well, how long were the winters in Russia?
The winter, well, they was pretty long. They're longer than what they are here. But not that was too bad. Fine, it's still down. Maybe it didn't come up.
It's gone.
Well, I'm wondering, what kind of a stove did your mother have to cook the rest of the meal on? You explained about the bread baking.
Yeah, well, the stove where she cooked on, it was made out of dirt and heat with, there was no gas or anything like that, you see, but with straw.
Was straw the main fuel?
Yeah, yeah. They had big straw stacks, you see, when they threshed the wheat and the corn stalks, the corn leaves, you see, and everything was saved. They were not thrown away. Yeah, they had big straw stacks, you see, when they threshed the wheat and the corn stalks, corn leaves, you see, and everything was safe. They were not thrown away.
Yes.
And they burned it all during the wintertime.
Well, what did they feed the horses and the cattle in the wintertime?
Oh, we had hay, and then we had oats and corn. Oats and corn, that's what they made. Yeah, and we fed them hay, but they were mostly out in the pastures.
Yes.
Yeah.
How many bushels did you figure was a good yield of oats in Russia?
Oh, they had a can that I don't know, might have been a gallon, like a gallon, you know. Could be something like that, but they had a can, kind of a shovel like. See, they had it in a barrel there. They scooped in with a shovel.
Yes.
And give them, just about like a gallon.
Well, the soil in Russia is very productive, isn't it?
Oh, that was a good country. Yeah, Russia was good soil. When you raise something good, and it didn't have to fertilize either.
Yes.
And what you raised there, it was good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, what year did you leave Russia to come to the United States?
In what year?
Mm-hmm.
1907.
1907.
Yeah, we left there. And I was going to tell you, when we left there that morning, why, the neighbors all come around, you know, and they had the band come out from the school, and they played the bands, just like the school band here, you see. They played the band, and then they sing, we're going to America, you see. They sung that song after the band was through, they sung that song.
Well.
Yeah. Yeah, we had a good thing come over. Nice, all the neighbors.
Yes.
Well, you see, my daddy sold that wine all over the country there. Some of the neighbors didn't raise now, you see. They come bought there. And then, when the people come in, we talked about the people coming in from foreign countries at the market, see. My dad had one house over here where the people come and ate. Some of them brought their own meals. And those that didn't have meals, why, had to go to town and buy whatever they want to eat. And then they had another house here, more like you would say people stayed all night. It must have been 150 feet long, cabinet, you know, but it had the rooms in there, see? Just like cabins here would be. And the people, when they got through eating there, want to go to bed, then they had to get that room, they had to pay so much for each room to go in there. But this house here, they drink the wine, you see, and we sold the wine sometimes all night long. If some of them get drunk, yeah, and we sold but they didn't have to pay for the house there. But they ate there and bought the wine, and sometimes Mama had some things, you know, for them to eat, so that were well acquainted. They come every 14 days. They had the market like that.
How did your father bottle the wine?
There wasn't no bottle.
No bottle?
No. They just, when they took it to they had something, a pitcher like, you know, stick in there. They get it in a bucket. A bucket hold about 5 or 6 gallon, you know, and carry it in there where the people live. Then we just dip it in there. And if the glass was poured in the glass, so much a glass, that's the way he sold the wine. So the people there where they made most of the money by the people that come every 14 days, you see, during the year. Sometimes, and when they come in, they have no oxen, and the wagons, they had wooden, where the wheels goes on, I forgot to,
Axel?
where the wheel turned on, you see, it was wood, made out of wood. And they stopped on the outside of the town and greased them up first. And then they come in with the oxen. They walk on the sides, you see, and then the oxen pull the wagon, and there where they had all the stuff on.
Could you tell me what chores you did around the house and on the farm in Russia?
Oh, we had to keep things cleaned up, but had to clean things up, you know. When they all went away, well, there was always stuff laying around, you see. And us boys had to go and pick things up. The girls were pretty small, they didn't do much of that. But us boys had to clean up. And then had to put it in the wagon and haul it to the trash pile. At the down where the market is, you see, where all they put that stuff. But I take it way down there.
In school and around the house, what games did you play?
Oh, we played marbles, like this, you know, marbles, and hide and go seek in the evening, you know, played hide and go seek and things like that. And they played cards and dominoes. It was more like here, yeah. And that country, when we left, it was just like the United States. You could buy and sell and do anything you want to. It was just like the United States was. Till the Bolsheviks come in, then it changed, you see.
Can you describe that change?
Well, when the Bolsheviks come in, you see, they took the guns away from them first. Now that was after we come in here. See, my dad got letters from over there. And he got a book. Later on he got a book where the church was on, and the jailhouse, and the neighbors, the factories, and things like that, and everything written on where people lived. My dad had a book. And now what was the question you asked me?
What was the change when the...
Oh, when the Bolsheviks come in?
Yes.
Well, first thing they done, they took the guns away from them, for all the people you see. Had to have no guns. And now they wrote us, I don't know what it was like that or not. Now those that want to go communist, you know, with the Bolsheviks, why, that's all up to them. And those that didn't, they shot them right there by the barn. They lined them all up by the barn, you see. And those that didn't want to go, they shot them right there. Now that's what they wrote us. It wasn't there. Yeah. See? Well, and a lot of them went communist. They didn't want to, but they didn't want to get killed. And then when the war come on, you see, and captured Bessarabia, we had people still, my father had a sister out there yet. And some more factors was out there. Well, they took them from there to Poland. And all you could take is what you could carry. The rest of them was all left. And I wouldn't have that something you'd hear. Leave everything. And my sister's girl got sick, and she died on the road. And she died. And they put her in a ditch over here and went right on. Yeah, that's the way they treated him. Now that was communists going out to Poland.
Why would they move to Poland?
Well, it seems like that was a more kind of free country, you know. I think the Germans must have had it already. I've forgotten how it was. but they were a more free country from moved to Poland. And from Poland, some of them went to Germany, see, in Germany. And then when we went in and helped Russia win the war, and then some of them went from Poland into Russia, see. And my father's sister and her family, they got a picture. They was all dressed up nice and on the picture taken there in Russia. He says, Uncle Robert, my dad was dead then already. He said, Uncle Robert, we can be here till we get old and die, but we won't have a dime more what we have today. But they when they worked out, you see, Russia got everything. And they didn't have nothing, but they fed them, clothed them good, and everything. They had nice clothes on with a family picture taken there in Russia.
Now, was that in World War II when that happened?
Yeah, that's the one Hitler wrote.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you tell me what items the family packed to bring to America?
But what?
What did the family pack to bring to America from Russia?
Everything that he didn't sell, he packed the blankets and feather beds and the pillows that were slept on. The pillows was that wide and they was that high, a square. My mother brought 6 of them in. And before she died, she had 3 girls left. She said that the pillows, they belonged to the girls. Each one had 2, you see. But the feather beds, you can divide them. Brought them along in here too, you see. And the money what Dad had, I was 9 years old, and I had money tied around my legs, you know. You couldn't write a check, you know, and go out there like we do here. You had to have your money with you. And I had a brother older than I am, but they had more money. Belts on, you know, money stuffed in there. And when we got here, our ruble, is more like $1, you know, was worth 50 cents in here that time. Was worth 50 cents. Now you see, and my dad bought that land, and he paid everything out but $800. He had to borrow $800. He couldn't pay for it. You see, we had to live. We got to have to buy us a horse, the plow, and things like that. You see. Yeah, my dad was well-to-do when he said, if he could have got the dollar for dollar or ruble for ruble, you see, but he had plenty. But it was just half price when we got in here.
Tell me about leaving the town and getting on the ship.
Well, we had to go first on the train. Had to go on the train so far. I think till we got to, I don't know what was Germany, I think it was Germany. And then from Germany we had to lay over there. See, it took us 30 days from Russia to get in here. We had to lay over there so long. And my dad took 4 other boys in here. 4 other boys. If they stayed out there 1 year longer, well, they had to go to the army. See, and my dad, he was in the army, but he was all he done is right to the fence. He never had to go out and walk or anything like that. And he seen how now you could steal out there. You could steal there in the army, and some of them, if the folks didn't write them and send them some money, you know, for tobacco or things what they needed, while they went to store it. And when they steal something, they said, when you steal something, don't let you catch yourself. And they whipped them awful bad when they stole things, see. They whipped them off of bed. My dad saw all of that, see. He was there. So I had two brothers that went in 2 years before we ever went in. See, they didn't want to let them go to the army. And they wouldn't give them a dime. See, here we pay him, but out there they didn't. And Dad was going to send Fred in, was the oldest one, but he was too close to the army and they wouldn't let him go in. So they sent Edward in. He was about 18 years old, maybe 16, about 16 years old. He was awfully young, they said. And then later, he got another company that he got Fred in, but had to go through another company. You know how to do them things. And he got Fred in. Now the uncles in here, you see, they went with the uncles. Both of them went along in with the uncles. But he took 4 boys extra when we went in. My mother's brother and Ritz, Edward Buck, and another one, I forgot his name now. But 4 other boys, and they paid the tickets, and when they come, they was going to go to South Dakota. My 2 brothers was in South Dakota, and they got jobs. Had jobs while they was in Russia. One man said, "I'll take one." They took one of them. That's all the jobs, you know. So they had paid the tickets, and when they worked here, why, they paid Dad back. But 2 of them had to go back to Russia. Their eyes wasn't right, you see. There's something wrong with their eyes. They had to go back to Russia and doctor their eyes, and then they come in with their mother. Miss Calder, she come in, that was my mother's mother, you see. She come in, and then he come along in with them that time.
Do you know what ship you came over on?
I think, well, Missler.
Missler?
Missler.
Was that a German ship?
Yeah, there's a German ship, Missler.
Tell me about the trip.
Well, I'll tell you. We got on a little ship first. It took us out so far where the Missler ship was. It was a big ship. And they had horses in there, cows in there, wagons, machinery. See? And they had to load that all up in that Missler ship. It took a long time to do all of that, you see. And the cattle was on the bottom and the horses, and then the machinery on the side of it. And then there was another deck over there where the poor people stayed, you see. And they all laid on the floor. They had their sacks, you know, whatever you call it. They slept on the floor. But my dad, he went and got first class, and he lived on the end. See? Or how the ship goes on the end, goes up like this, front and back. And we lived in the first class, and another 2 women, Russian women, they were in the same class there where we was. And we had every morning, we got our schnapps, the whiskey, you know. They come with the whiskey first, and nice meals. And when we got through eating, well, they come and picked everything up. And that was everything paid for till we got to Goodwin, Oklahoma. Everything was paid for out in Russia. Up to Goodwin, Oklahoma. See, what money we had to keep it tied up, you see. So one night was awful windy. Come up a storm, awful windy, and blew us off of the track on top of a sand hill, and when it was blowed up on top there, you see the ship went over this way. It spilled the slop jar, what my dad had said on the floor. It spilled that, and then he took the blankets and You know, they didn't have no belt. They had something around here. The kids had something. And he tied this on the bed where we, our kids slept up higher. Mom and father was underneath, and the kids on top, 2 decks, you see. And they tied blankets across so we wouldn't fall down when the ship went like that. And then they come around and told us, if they do, they try to get off, and we did get off before daylight. But they had the ship all tied up on top, so could no water come in. We could live so many hours. But the ship would go down, see, we close some hours. And they said, makes me cry every time I think about it. They said, if we do get off there and get on the line, you see, get close towards, they could send the message to another ship. He said, we could live so many hours in case we would. But they got off I guess that the water got going, you know, and the sand kind of washed away, and they finally got off. And then we got on the line again. And then we went, about 6 or 7 days. They turned loose a bird, a dove. Well, the dove flew around, but it's come back on a ship. They make people think that we come to land, you see. They get tired. It was on there already 7 days. And that bad weather. And then so many days later, they turned another one loose. And it never come back. It got on land then, you see. So we knew we was getting on land. I'll tell you, that was scary. Makes me cry every time I think about it.
Where was this sandbar that your ship got stuck on?
Well, we don't know.
You don't know just
we
where
don't know
you
what
were.
was. Someplace in the ocean, you see. They got the route just like the airplanes had, the ships had.
Did you land in New York?
Yeah, we landed in New York.
Did you pass the Statue of Liberty?
Yeah, it was there. We seen it.
What'd you think of it?
Well, it was nice. It was way up there. Mm-hmm. It was nice.
Tell me about Ellis Island.
What?
Ellis Island, where you got off the ship, where all the immigrants go through.
When we got off there, all we had was we had a slop jar, you see, and the thing that we just needed for us. But the rest of it, they changed it around. We didn't have to help nothing. It was everything paid for. We got the good bit.
What kind of examination did they give you?
We had to take all the tests. They was going to vaccinate us, but you see, they didn't vaccinate us, our family, because I still got it on here. Yet what they vaccinate in Russia. When they vaccinated in Russia, they give you the vaccination. And then so many days you have to come down there, they take this out and vaccinate the other one. And then when that had it so long, they take it out of him and put it in another one. And all of us kids, all was vaccinated in Russia for diphtheria and things like that, you see. But when we got in here, I had 2 children had got diphtheria here in America. My children, see. And my mother and my dad come in there all the time, and I was in there all the time, and never got it. But the other children, the folks took them over to their place and took care of them over there.
How long did you stay at Ellis Island?
Oh, I don't know, it was about 4 or 5 days, I imagine.
Mm-hmm. How were you treated there?
Just fine.
Mm-hmm.
It was all right.
Mm-hmm. How many people were on the boat with you?
Oh, I wouldn't know. There was lots of them.
how were the other people treated? You said that you came first class.
Yeah.
How were the other people treated on the ship? Do you know?
Well, they was all right, only they didn't have the food like us. A nice room, you see. They had the mirror, you see, was longer than this. Where we ate, we could look in the mirror and things like that, you see. And we had our flowers. We had our flowers on the table when we ate, things like that. But other people, we mixed all together, you see. There were some of our people from our country, but there was, like them boys we brought in, you see, they was in second class. They wasn't with us. This our family was the first class. But they never noticed anything when that storm was, you see. They was down underneath the lid on the floor. They didn't know nothing about it. But here we was on the end, you see, and you see how that does. The ship maybe 15, 20 feet on up there. And there we was. Yeah, we could look out and see the ocean, our windows, you see. See the ocean, how the waves was going.
How long did you stay in New York any time, or just get on the train and come to Oklahoma?
Oh, we changed everything. We might have stayed all night if we were got on a train. And when we got on a train, my oldest brother got sick. So Dad said, Donald, do your best, he said. No, don't let nobody see that you're sick. We may have to send you back to Russia again. But we wouldn't have to, you know. But he just got train sick. He was on a train, he got train sick. But the rest of us was all right. But they didn't last very long. See, them trains didn't go so fast those days. It took quite a while till we got to Oklahoma. And when we got to Goodwin, early in the morning, say about 5 o'clock, my uncle was there with a big wagon, 2 head of horses on, big wagon, and there was a boxcar, no agent, nothing. All was a boxcar, and it was kind of cloudy that morning, and we all got in the wagon then, you know, and took the stuff we had, and then we drove around here, go out to the road, and there was our baggages, all but one. One baggage they took off in Shattuck, but the rest of us all here in Goodwin.
In Goodwin?
Goodwin, yeah. That was between Higgins and Shattuck. Yeah. And that Goodwin, where we come to, it was Goodwin then. And then they seen that the town was going backwards, so they built new Goodwin, north about 4 or 5 miles north. Call it New Goodwin. First they called it Holstein, and then they later called it Goodwin. Well, they had an elevator, post office, and everything there, butcher shop, grocery store, and everything. They had that all here. But the people went more to Shattuck or to Higgins, you see.
Now, is Goodwin in Oklahoma or Texas?
Oklahoma.
Oklahoma,
yeah. Goodwin, Oklahoma.
It
ain't on the map no more.
Yeah. Now, had your father already purchased a farm in Oklahoma?
After he come here, we put.
Okay, he bought after he
Yeah, we went to our uncle
Mm-hmm.
first. He had a 2-story house, and we stayed there maybe 30 days.
What was your uncle's name?
Uncle John Udick.
John Odick?
Udick. Uttuck. John Udick. Now he was in South Dakota, but when he heard that the land in Oklahoma was cheaper, so he come to Oklahoma. All right, and bought that land. It was awful rough, but he got it cheap. A preacher lived there, and he had built a nice home, a nice orchard, and that's what he liked, you know. But the land was pretty rough. I went by a place this morning. And then my dad went clean around toward Shattuck, price lands. But this was the cheapest land he could buy. And that was a mile south from my uncle, mile south. And after we was there about a year or 2 years, well, he sold out and went back to South Dakota. I couldn't buy no land, but he took the money but he bought his horses and everything up there in South Dakota, and he got well to do. He bought land in North Dakota then. It was cheaper. But he never moved to North Dakota. He stayed in South Dakota. Trip South Dakota.
What was your first impression of Oklahoma?
Huh?
What was your first impression of Oklahoma? What did you think of it?
Well, it was pretty rough, Going up the hills, downhill, and Russia, it was everything more level, you see. We had, in Russia out there, we had one where we go up. When we come down, we had to take a chain and tie on the wheel so it wouldn't go so fast, go down. And then on top of that, Robert Dad had the vineyards and his farm, you see, on that.
Impression of Oklahoma. What did you think of it?
Well, it was pretty rough, Going up the hills, downhill, and Russia, it was everything more level, you see. We had, in Russia out there, we had one where we go up. When we come down, we had to take a chain and tie on the wheel so it wouldn't go so fast, go down. And then on top of that, Robert Dad had the vineyards and his farm, you see, on top. That was all level again.
What month in 1907 did you arrive in Oklahoma?
The 9th of May.
9th of May.
9th of May. And the Lutherans, they called it that day Christi Himmelfahrt. When Jesus went to heaven, the Lutherans kept that was the day.
What chores did you have to do when you first arrived here?
What chores?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't have nothing. Our uncle, he had 2 cows. We milked the cows and had 4 head of horses. But we didn't have to do nothing. He done that all.
Did you start the school in Oklahoma?
Oh, yeah.
Where was the school?
It was 2.5 miles where we lived. We had to walk 2.5 miles, me and my sister, every morning and night. In wintertime, for lunch, we'd take lunch in a bucket. Sometimes we had apple and crackers. And Mother put some butter on the crackers, or maybe molasses on some of them. And that was our lunch. And in the wintertime, one time I had an apple in my pants, you see, and it was frozen when we got to school. Yes, 2.5 miles walk.
Well, compare the schools here with the schools in Russia. Are there any comparison?
Well, I went, the first year, I went in the primer. Couldn't talk American, you see. Didn't know what a cow was. And the chart, that was my first year, the chart. It turned it around, and there was a horse, and then it said underneath the horse, And you had to learn that, you see. It took quite a while. And maybe next day the cow. And then we had to count. You see?
So you had to begin again.
That was the beginning, a chart. And then the next year we got in a primer. And the primer, they had horses and chair and table and everything in there too, you see. And it talked all about what this was. That's the way we had to start out, in the primer. And then the next year was first grade, you see. And then the fourth year was second grade, see. And I think there's where I quit. See, the Lutherans, when you got, I think, 14 years old, you had to go to the Lutheran, get confirmed, you see. And then after you got confirmed, you was single. You didn't have to go to school no more. It was free. And not no more like it is nowadays. So I didn't get much English learned, you see. And a lot of them words, especially in Sunday school books, when I read the Bible, you know, there's a lot of them words I just have to skip. I don't know what they... And in German, the same way, them big words in German, I don't know. Yeah.
How many other German students besides you and your sister in the school?
In that school?
Yeah.
We had high as 50 of them going to that school. We had one teacher teach all the grades.
How many of the students did not speak English?
We had them coming in all the time, you know. Every year some of them come in, you know. And then there was. Me and my sister, our neighbor, had a boy and a girl. And we were young, you know, and we played in the sand. Made a corral, you see, and had some sticks with horses. And then they talked English, you see. And there were me and my sister. It didn't take very long, maybe 2 years, we could talk pretty good. But my folks never could talk American, but they got by. They got by, you see. My mother went to Shattuck, and there was an old man roofing, and he was a foreigner, roofing, and they still got the store there today. And my mother go in there, and that chair sat there, see, benches. But my mother could talk with Miss Rufin and get along just fine, maybe for an hour till they had the training all done, you see. They sold coffee and sugar and tea and dry goods and everything. And that store is there yet today, but they just sell dry goods. But their folks is going, and their son is going, but their son's boys around it now, the roofing store.
Did she speak German or Russian?
When we got to America, we had to talk American.
I know, but your parents never did, you said never
Well,
did learn.
they finally got by, you know.
But which language did she speak? Was it German?
German.
She spoke
German, yeah, we were German. My dad went to town to Higgins, and he was going to buy some raisins. Well, and that was American. So he told him what he wanted. And that man, he went and got this out, finally got plums out. And he says, my dad said, I want in German, I want the brothers to them plums. So he got the raisins. That's all he wanted. See, that's the way they had to get by.
World War I. Was there any antagonism against the Germans during the war around here?
You know, when they fought Hitler, you mean?
No, the Kaiser.
No, I don't know.
1917, 1918.
Well, yeah, they wouldn't let you talk German in Shattuck, but you could talk German in Higgins. See? And a lot of them Germans that lived around Shattuck come to Higgins and bought. And then we had some already that Germans at Higgins that worked for them in the store, you see. They could talk already. Yeah. But you couldn't talk German here in Shattuck. Rural can calculate that too.
What were you, the Russian Revolution, when the Bolsheviks took over?
Out in Russia,
Yeah.
it was no good.
Did you ever meet the Tsar?
No.
What did you think when they shot the Tsar?
Well, we was in America when they shot him.
Mm-hmm.
We was in America then, and they just wrote us that.
What did you think when you heard about it?
Well, we was glad we wasn't in America. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
During World War I, when we had to have meatless days and wheatless days, did you folks have to do that too?
Yeah, we had to do that. Had flour, you could just buy so much flour, so much sugar, so much coffee. Yeah, we had to go all through that.
And then eat cornmeal or eat cornbread.
Cornbread, yeah, yeah. And we had to just, and when you want to buy, say, sugar, and then they give you something that they couldn't give you, know.
Mm-hmm.
They added to your, give you one or two extra things.
Yes.
But what you want to buy, you used to have to buy so much, and that's all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But we always got plenty.
Yes, we did too.
Yeah,
I can remember World War I too.
yeah. How old are you?
You mustn't ask a woman that. What about the flu epidemic? Do you remember the flu epidemic?
Yeah, but we never had much flu.
Oh, you didn't?
No. You see, we were vaccinated, our family.
Mm-hmm.
But later, my children, when I got married, my children, well, two of them had diphtheria, and then we got sick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was the flu or what it was, I don't know.
How old were you when you got married?
I was 21.
Uh-huh. And could you tell me your wife's name?
Vida, she was 18.
Mm-hmm.
She was 18.
Mm-hmm. And what was her name? Her last name?
Craver.
Mm-hmm.
Craver was her last
And
name.
what
They come from Kansas.
Uh-huh.
They moved to Higgins on a ranch. The banker up there had some land down here, and he sent him down here on his place, and he built the barn first and then the house. Nice home. That home is still in Higgins now. They moved it to Higgins. It's still there.
How did you meet her?
My wife?
Yes. And where?
Well, I met her on the dance. My dad had two farms. One where he lived, and one where the Rose lived, had them two kids, you know. He bought that. They paid $45,000 for that quarter. Had a nice home on, big barn, and a cellar, and a house on top of the cellar.
And he paid how much?
$4,500.
$4,500.
Yeah. $500 more, and over there, we had to there was a barn, but it was built in the ground, you know, barn. And the house was about 12 feet wide and about 40 feet long. And the roof, it was made out of boards, you see. And when they got on the roof, there's boards, they had grooves in here, see? And then put the other board on, had the roof just like this. And then you come, had another thing go on top there. I still got them boards in my barn that I built, and one of them things that go on top, I still got it.
Well.
And got them boards, and the floor was 1/12, the floor, you see. My mother washed the floor with down on her knees, and the water just run right through the floor, see.
Right between the cracks.
Yes, right. We put nothing on there, you see. And now that was one of the first places where we bought. We paid $4,000 for that place. Well, my dad wanted to get away from his uncle, you know. He wanted to be by himself.
Sure.
So he just bought that. And we lived there 1 year. We lived there one year. And the next year, he built a sod house on the other side of the creek. We had to go through the creek all the time. We had round water there, fish in there. And we had holes that was about 10, 12 feet deep. And the water run all the time when we come to country. Plenty of fish. And when they built this house on this side of the creek, then we didn't have to drive through the creek all the time, you see. And he built it out of, just like in Russia. And that house is still there. And we shingled it twice. I shingled it last time. And then now, I says, it's old, I says, the windows ain't no good no more, and it's old and everything. And the boy said, no, Dad, just go ahead and put a tin roof on. So the boys was a really cool, nobody there. So I went to Shattuck here and got the tin from Shattuck and got 2 men from Higgins to put the roof on. There's just one sheet all the way through. I don't know how long it was, but I didn't know. Must have been about 14 feet long.
And that sod house is still standing?
It's still standing there. And one of my boys come from Wichita and went and put that paint on. That last six years, my folks always whitewashed it, you see. I whitewashed it one time with lime, you know, whitewashed it, and that kept the water off. But this fell off and that fell off, and then the last 2 years ago we had lots of rain. And it soaked up, and the inside was somehow filled up, you see. And then he come put that stuff on. It just looks like a brand new house. Only the windows, the inside, and the ceiling, the paper what my mother had on fell down. But they just wanted to keep it. That's what my dad built to he.
Would you tell us how he built that house?
That house?
Yeah.
Well, we moved on this side of the creek. So we built, dug a well first, you see. We dug the well first while we lived on the other side. And my 2 older brothers that was in South Dakota, they come down the next year, you see. And they come down to help build this house. And we got this clay for this old house where I built now. We got the clay there. I built another house later there, after the folks died. And we got the clay there, and haul it around here. And we got some straw and grass straw, mow some grass and straw and put in there. And we haul the dirt first over that deep clay, and then the straw on top. Put so much straw on top like the dirt was. And then we haul the water from down there at the creek, and to dip it out with the bucket and put it in barrels. And we had a sled, because we put 3 barrels on the sled. Barrels, they were wooden barrels. But they used to sell vinegar and stuff, We had them barrels, and we hauled the water on there. Maybe half a day hauled water on there. And then I was the guy that had to ride the 2 horses, and the tails about to get the tails up, and tie them up on top, so they couldn't get in the mud. And them 2 horses, I had to ride them all the time. Start in the middle and in the here first, and then further out all the time, you see. Maybe all day. And then the next morning, had to haul some more water, and went on it. It was real muddy, you see. It took a lot of water. And then in the evening, I took the horses down there where we hauled the water, and I rode the horses and they swam, you see, with their feet like this. The water was 12 foot deep, and maybe someplace deeper. And drove them in there, and the horses to get the dirt off of their feet, stomach and all. And then when that was done, then we built the house. Well, we could build quite a bit with all that mud, you see. And we hauled rocks down first for about 2 weeks. Picked rocks up on the land. Our land is over rocky. And hauled them rocks down, and then my dad went and started from the foundation, dug down a little bit, put the rocks down. And then that's the way he built. I think we had it before, I talked about it. And we put the mud on there, and then the rock, and then put some more mud in here between, and we had some already there, but still solid, and then mud again. That's the way we built it up. 8 foot high.
Did you have a form that you put the mud in?
No. We had a rope tied on the outside, you see, and inside had a rope.
So you just formed the wall from the mud?
Yeah.
And this house is down on your place now?
It's there yet today.
What year did you build the house?
We come in 7, we built it in 8, the next year.
I'd like to see that house.
Yeah, we got a professor there at the school. He come out one Sunday. He heard about it, He come out with his family and looked at it. He said the first house he ever saw. But that's the way the house was built, and in the ground. When they saw somebody coming in, before we got there, you see, they dug it in the ground, the house.
Yeah.
And then the neighbors, when they saw a wagon sitting over there, they walked over there. Well, I got this land, and they helped him dig that, so he could go in there and sleep.
You mentioned that when you were leaving Russia, all the neighbors had a band that sang a song that you're going to America.
Yeah.
Do you remember that song?
No, it was more like we were marching to America, you see. That was what the song was. But first the band played, and then they sang that song, the whole school. Now, my folks could tell you the song and everything, but I forgot.
What did you do for recreation in Russia? Did you have dances or?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about.
Yeah, they had dances, played accordion, you see. Accordion, French harp. And they danced by. Yeah, they had dances.
What steps did they dance?
Huh?
What steps did they dance?
Well, we had I was too young, I didn't get to go, you see. But we had a man by the name of Ludwig Apple. He lived here in Shattuck. And he showed us how to dance. We had a wedding one time, and they had a dance, and he showed us. They went more like this, you say, straight, all straight, and get a hold here, not close together. It was far apart. That's what he showed us. And then he danced on the ship like this, danced like that.
Oh.
I can hardly get up when I get down like that.
Well, I thought maybe they had polkas and schottisches and waltzes.
Yeah, they had that too, but
They had all that too.
But they never got close together.
No.
They always stand apart when they dance. And that's what he said. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to America again. Now, this house that you described, that you built here, it sounded to me like it was very similar to the home that you lived in Russia.
Russia, yeah. But we had shingles here already, you see.
Yes.
But we didn't have no cement. When my dad came to this country in 1907, there was not such a thing as cement.
No.
No. Them buildings that my dad built over here, you see, the barn and the garage and everything, laid rocks down and put 2x6 on top of the rocks. See, something there to hold. And when I bought this place, after folks was gone, I paid $3,500 for it, for the half a section. See, and my dad paid $4,000 for the first one, $4,500 for the next one. See, and I bought it for $3,500.
What year was that?
Must have been in 40, was in the 40s.
It was in the 40s.
Yeah.
Well, land was cheaper.
Oh, yeah. I think it figured out $11 an acre that time.
Yes.
See, we didn't have no electricity nor nothing. And I needed $2,000 to pay the kids out, you see, each $500. They wanted $500, so I gave them each $500. So it was $3,500 then, see. And I had mine was $500. Mine come off of there, see.
Yes.
And I had one of my brothers bought out already, about 3 years before. I must bought that place in 42, I guess, or something like that.
Yes.
But anyway, and then I went to Arnett to borrow the money, loan, you know. And I talked to him, and I said, for 2 quarters? He said, yeah. Well, he said, Carl Schultz, he got 1 quarter, and he borrowed $2,500 on 1 quarter, and you got 2 quarters. He said, you can get it easy. So, all right. By the times when Carl Schultz bought, land was hard, you see. And now here it was cheap.
Yes.
So I had to give him $25. He got $10, and the company sent the man out. He got $15. See. Well, the company come and they walked around the fence, 2-wire fence, and the buildings they was all sitting on rocks. You see. Well, he couldn't buy it. There was no cement.
No.
To put on. They're all on rocks. He said. I says, but I already when the time he come, I borrowed the money from Alec Laughlin and John and Ernest Rader, each $1,000, see, and already had my brothers and sisters all paid off.
Yeah.
I was waiting for it. He said I get it, see. And when he come, well, he walked around. I had just butchered that day. I butchered the hog and the beef. I had butchered and was just making sausage. And I had 4 boys and 2 girls, I think, or 1 girl. And he come and he walked around, prayed and everything. He says, I said, well, when can I get this money? Well, he says, I don't know whether you're going to get any. And I didn't owe a dime for nobody, you see. I might owe a grocery bill or something like that. We sold our eggs and cream for our grocery, sometimes over and sometimes not quite. So he said, and then I went over to Arnett, turned it in, and he wrote them. No, they can't. My building was sitting on rocks, a 2-wire fence. He says they can't do it for a half a section. See? Yeah. And then when they wrote back, they couldn't give it. Ellis Island said, well, tell them $1,000. So I had to go back over to Arnett again, and it wasn't so easy to go over there again those days. And told him $1,000. Ernest Rader wanted his $1,000. No, they couldn't borrow it down. Well, that's go over again and say 500 for a half a section, and they wouldn't loan me 500. And I never was in jail or anything like that up till today, and didn't owe a dime nobody. And I had $1,000 of my own money already, see. But I didn't have to pay. I bought my brother's place way before the others was sold. So we butchered again, and I says, well, here's the letter. They loaned out in this part of the country. Well, Carl Schultz's land, they had nothing but rocks. It wasn't worth nothing. And he said, we sold out in this part of the country. So I went to my neighbor. He used to borrow money out here and there, not much. I said, Reinhardt Klein was his name. I was, can you borrow me $2,000? I said, I can get it from old man Gray. I said, but he wanted 10 cents, I says, and that's so much interest. Now, I want to borrow for 5 years. And I says, I'll pay you 6% interest. That's what he's been loaning out, see. So, all right. He says, Robert, he says, Ronald, son ain't going to farm a place. Well, I may have to buy me a tractor. He'll farm my own. A man went and bought 2 horses. And then there was going to be called in German mortgage, you know. And my dad always had wine, and that had an extra house there. And they come and they drink wine. What they call that in American when they buy something, you know, and they want to give something. I don't know what they call it. Anyway, they come when they made the deal, you see. They come up there, and my dad give them the wine, you see, they drink the wine. And they tie the horses up there by our house where we live. And this house is over here, where we kept the people. And the 2 horses, they tie them up there. And one of them, Spitzbuhl, they come and got them horses and took them away. And when they come out, the horses was gone. And they went down the street, maybe from here to my car out here in this street, and seen him where he walked around with them horses, going this way, you see. And there's where when they brought the horses in, that's where he was. He went on the outside there, and on this side here there was a big creek, ditch. You may not believe that, but that's the way it was. That water run through here. Not all the time, but sometimes they turn it out. and they had their outhouses sitting here on that creek, see?
Mm-hmm.
And then when they had so much that stuff in there, they turned the water on up there, and that washed it all out,
Yes.
see? When he went around this way, they knew that he'd come down that creek because that was the end of where he could go, you see.
Yes.
It was closed there. So some of them went over here, and some over here, the one of them guys.
Mm-hmm.
And they caught him, had the horses,
Mm-hmm.
with the horses. They caught him. They got the man. All right. What they do, they got the man and the horses, put the horses over there by my dad's place again, and put them in the barn, locked them up, and they took this man out in the pasture, you see, the cliff, and killed him.
Mm-hmm.
And when they had him killed, they threw him down the cliff, maybe 50, 60 feet. And then they come in, went down to the courthouse, and told him what they done, these men. And they thought they had to do something, but what they got him. And they were so mad, they said, half drunk too. They drink that wine, and then took out and killed him and threw him down there. And they come down and told the sheriff all of this, what they done, what he done, and what they were doing and everything. And they said, we took him out there, and that cliff, named by name and everything. But he said, he ain't gonna steal no more. And that was the end of it. Yeah. But what we do in the United States, we get the lawyer, and the lawyer works on it and works on it and works on it, things like that. You heard about that Chigori that got killed in an airplane a long time ago, several years. I don't know how long ago. And they settled all up. And that's here in America. Yesterday, the man had to go down there. He's dead, and mother had to go down there. And they settled all up, so everything was all right. Had to go down there, and had to go down once more now again. You see, them lawyers, they work on this thing and make the money. Now, this man probably don't get a dime. And there's what it is. If they do like that they do in Russia, they can kill him right away, then they won't steal no more. But this was an airplane, see.
And the next one would think twice before he did anything.
Yeah, you see.
Mm-hmm.
But them lawyers said that's what gets us bad.
Do you have any more questions?
In the wintertime, didn't you have a lot of snow in Russia?
Yeah, we had a lot of snow there at times, but it didn't stay on very long.
Oh, it didn't.
Maybe 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And some winters they were longer, and some shorter.
Mm-hmm.
But then it come another storm, you see, later on.
Yes.
Come another storm.
What kind of clothes did you wear in wintertime in Russia?
We had boots and overshoes when the snow was on. But in summertime, they had slippers like I got, but they had wooden soles. See?
Wooden soles.
Wooden soles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in summertime.
Mm-hmm.
And work out in the land, they had shoes with wooden soles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But in wintertime, we had boots. And the boots, they was made like this, folded up all the time, see?
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Like this.
They'd be
It
warmer.
looked real nice
Mm-hmm.
for what's so far up.
What were the boots made of?
Leather,
Leather?
pure leather.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, there was no imitation or something. You know, I can't even talk English right.
I've heard that some people wore a boot made of wool, fleece,
Yeah.
lamb's, sheep's wool.
Yeah, they had them out there too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they was about that thick
Yeah.
on the lakes, yeah. My dad had bought some shoes over here, boots, but they're all gone.
Were there many Jews that lived in your town in Russia?
Yeah, there was quite a few Jews.
How were they treated?
They're fine.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you take a Jew, he could start up with selling needles. Just selling needles, the Jew was here. And work himself up rich.
Mm-hmm.
Get something else, you know. And then they go from house to house and sell this, see, in town, in the country.
Did you ever hear about the big riot against the Jews in Russia?
No.
That was in 1905.
No, I don't know nothing.
Yeah, that was in Odessa.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Odessa, I heard my folks go to Odessa once in a while, but how far it was, I don't know. Odessa, I know that town. The folks talked about that town quite a bit. But the Jews, they were just like any ordinary people, like the Russians. No, everything was in Russian. So long as it was out there, just fine. You couldn't complain. But after we left, that other bunch come in. Well,
Oh, you said that your father was in the military in Russia?
yeah.
What did he do in the military?
Well, he had to keep records, you know, from the boys, records, and when one of them didn't behave right, he had to go in there, and then some new ones come in, he had to keep books for them too, if the new ones come in, the address and everything. Yeah, that's what he was doing.
When was your father in the army in Russia?
Huh?
When was your father in the army in Russia? Do you know?
How long he was in?
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
And you know what year he was in?
Well, I couldn't say that.
Was that before you were born?
Yeah, oh yeah, he was in before I was born. Even before he was married.
Yeah.
I guess I shouldn't say this, but anyway, when he got from the army home, you know, they had him there in our neighborhood, more like you was a big man in town here, you see. Like, a big shot from the office here. That's the way they had him down there. And now that's what he said. I don't know. He said when he come back from the army, he wanted to get married. I don't know how old he was when he got married, and never did. If he said, I forgot. Anyway, he wanted to get married, and his dad, we lived in the middle row, see, and his dad lived in this row over here. And he said he went in the middle row one time, walked around there, and he saw this girl, and he liked her. And so he went over there to see her. That was my mother. Went over there to see her. And, well, she was the oldest one in the family. Miss Calder. She was the oldest one in the family. And they had, I think, 5 or 6 children. And she had to take care of old enough to take care of the children, you see. And he wanted to marry her. And then her dad says, she's the only one that helps Mom, he says. The rest of them is the boys, and then had some girls, but they were younger. And she's the only one that helps Mom, he says. I can't let her go. But he said, you're going to keep her all the time? He told him, no. But he says, I can hire a woman over here, he says. Cost me so much to hire her. If you'll pay me that money now, he says, then you can have her. So he paid her the money what this woman had to stay there and help Grandma. He paid her the money till he married her. Yeah. But he wanted her.
Anything else you can think of?
You asked me how I met my wife. I think I told you on the dance.
Yes.
My brother, he was in Germany when they got Hitler, you see. And he brought 2 accordions. One was that big, 2 rows, and the other one was a little smaller. And he gave me the smallest one, and he played the biggest one. And my dad had this other farm that he bought later, had one big room. The front room was pretty good size, you know. But us boys stayed over there and slept, batched over there, like. But we ate over there by our mother, but we slept over here. Had our horses over here. We didn't have no barn over here, and the buggy was over here, and we fed the horses in here and everything. So one time we had a dance there at our place, and Dan and I played accordion. Didn't charge nothing. Just the neighbors just all come around in there. Sometimes 25, 30. So they heard about it in town, you see.
Yes.
And they finally come out there, and she come out there with her bunch, and then sometimes I would play the accordion by myself, and then he'd dance a little while, exercise, then he'd play and I'd dance. And they had choosing, you know, the women had to choose.
Yes.
The girls had to choose the boy they wanted, and she'd come over and choose me, and we danced, you know. And that night I had to take her back to Higgins. She was working in a hotel. I had to take her back to Higgins. She wouldn't go back to where it was.
Oh.
And we went together for a while. And then she went to Kansas City by her sister, and I went to South Dakota. All that time, you see. And then when we come back, we met again, you know, married.
Well.
Yeah. Well, there's where I met her on the dance.
Well, I've been trying to think. In Russia, they have kind of a sled that is pulled with 3 horses.
Yeah.
What are those called?
No, I didn't know it.
I
And the preacher, they hauled him in the same kind of a wagon,
Yes.
like that, with 3 horses.
Yes.
All with 3 horses on, the preacher. Pastor Slaus, he's the one that baptized me and confirmed my older brothers. And he had 2 daughters. They lived with him. His wife died. He had 2 daughters. They lived with him. Big house, and the church. I wish I would have kept that book, but I gave it to my boy. It was 2 layers. They built and another one on top there. Oh, there must have been 2,000 people go in that church. And the preacher went to another town to preach once a month, but he had his hearse, what's called, made more like a hearse, big, you know, 3 wagon, and had a man sitting there in front, driving. And he sat in the back. When the wind come from the front, you know, then he could turn around, the preacher, and let the wind come on his back. But the other one, the poor man had to sit there in front to look for his driving, to see.
And he had 3 horses on.
Yeah.
Well, I can't think of the name that's called.
Did you folks go to church?
Oh, yes.
Could I tell you when my wife was in the hospital when she died?
The what?
When my wife was in the hospital when she died. Could I tell that story?
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Now you can put it on record if you want to. I got the paper at home. She was sick 11 months, either in the old home or in the hospital for 11 long months. And when they went to the hospital, well, Medicare helped pay for some, but the old home, I had to pay everything.
Yes.
And for 11 long months, I never missed a day less I had to stay at home. One Sunday morning, we had snow, rain, sleet, broke limbs down, and one limb was close to by the garage, fell down. I couldn't move it, was frozen on the ground, couldn't move it, come in there. So, well, I didn't come in, so she phoned out. They took her on the wheelchair down where the telephone was, and I told her what happened. And that was the only time I didn't go in. I went in every day. We had her up in Wichita for a while. And, well, she wanted to go home. She wanted to go home. So we took her home, and she was getting feeling better. We took her home, and well, we couldn't keep her. She couldn't walk, nothing, I had to care her. And you couldn't find nobody to care of her. You found one woman, but you had to have three of them to care of her. So we put her back in the old home in Shattuck. And then she was 11 months, and they took her up. She got sick, took her up to the hospital. And my boy come that evening, when he heard Mom was sick. See, somebody phoned him. I didn't phone him. Somebody phoned him. He lived in Oklahoma City. And he come over that night, and he stayed all night with me out there in the country. Next morning he says, Daddy says, you stay at home today. He says, I'll go in and stay with Mom today. Well, I said, I'll come in this afternoon then. I said, I'll sleep till I feel all right. So he went in that morning, and he says, you know, Mom is just like Chores, up and down in her bed, up and down. And he was there with her. Finally, she says, JC, I want to go to heaven, just like that, you know. And I says, Jesus, I know you're ready to go. He says, that's fine. So, all right. He went out the room, stood beside the door for a little bit, and pretty soon the nurses come around in there. And I told him, whenever she dies, not to put that shocker on her to make her come alive again. I said, I don't want that. I saw a man up at Wichita. He was just out. He's a nice looking man, could eat, but he couldn't talk, couldn't walk, do nothing. I said, no, I don't want to have it done. That's all right. So pretty soon the doctor come in there, and they brought a big thing. Then JC says, what are you going to do with that? Well, he says, we're going to put it on your mom. He said, but we ain't going to do that. But and she named it by name. We ain't going to do that, but we're going to put this on her. And so, all right. By the time she said she wanted to die, in 15 minutes she was dead. She died in 15 minutes. The doctor come in there, and they went out there. He said, well, your mother left you, he said. But if she says, it's a good thing, he said, the other leg had to come off too. I'd already cut off one leg, then the other leg had to come off too. And so, all right, he told her that she died. And so he phoned me from up there in the third room there. He phoned me, said, Dad, I'm going to come out and get you. He says, well, I said, what for? I said, I can drive in. Been driving all the time. Well, Mom passed away and I don't want you to drive. So he went on the third store down and walked by where the woman sat here by the telephone office, get the telephone calls, and somebody on the phone said they want to talk to John Fechner, J.C. Fechner. And he was just going out the other door, just had it open, but they heard his name, you see. So he waited. And he said, does somebody want to talk to you? And I said, yeah. And it was his daughter. His daughter lives in Enid, Oklahoma. She prayed. She wanted to come over, you see, but she couldn't get off. Had 2 little kids. She couldn't get off. And while she was praying there and everything, she saw Mom and Jesus walking. Now ain't that something? So she told him that. She said, now look how the Lord works things out. There he had to walk right by there while she phoned. And opened the other door, was going to go out, but he heard his name, so he come back. Then he talked to his daughter. She said, you know what, they are afraid. And he said, I could see Grandma and Jesus walking on both feet, at both feet. And he said she turned around and smiled. Ain't that something?
Yeah. Well, I think we have a good interview.
That's over 30 minutes.
Yeah. Okay, I want to thank you.
And I thank you for this last story you've told. That's a miracle.
To you what I'm supposed to do, but I'm glad to be through.
Oh yeah, this is the Germans from Russia.
And I got a tape at home, but I couldn't find it. But I found this tape here.
Oh yeah.
Now, they sing all the way through, and here's the songs on it, you see. Here's the songs.
This is the songs that this group is on this tape.
Yeah.
That would be interesting.
Now I called Rudolph this morning what they called for a carpenter in German.
Huh.
And he didn't know it, and he thought that was when it says no, he didn't know that, but the band, he says Musikanten. But I think that's about as close as I would know to Germany, you see. And I can understand, in 48, I built my new house. And I got a letter, my brother was here from South Dakota, helped me. And this, my dad's sister, the whole family, some of them were married, you see. They all wanted to come in. And
Let's sign one.
Yeah, it's not sure about
and they all wanted to come in, you know. Well, that took lots of money to them come in. I couldn't do it. And you know what, I wrote back and said that I left one girl, her husband got killed in the army. That's, my sister had a restaurant up in Gate, Oklahoma. I says, and she'll take her and take care of her. And when she likes it, well then, and she thinks it's all right, well then we let some more come in. But I said I can't. I ain't got that kind of money to that thing. But I went to Arnett first before I wrote this letter, and they told me over there. He says, now if you let them in, and if they want to go back, you have to send them back. And if one gets sick, you have to take care of her. Everything like that, you know. Well, that stopped everything. But we was going to send this one in. We let this one girl come in. And they wrote back and said no. And I said, it'd be better if it just one come now and then some later. No, she said, if the ship goes under and we dive, she said, we'd like to all be together. And I never heard no more from them. Now there was a place open in South America, they said. Now whether what happened, I don't know. And I never heard no more from them people. Whether they died or what happened.
Yeah.
Who is your sister in Gate?
Huh?
Who's your sister in Gate?
Rosalie Eaton.
Oh, is she your sister?
Yeah, she
I
is.
know her.
You know her?
Yes.
How old is she?
Oh, I don't know. You don't ask a woman her age.
She married Ray Forsman first,
Yes.
and he died.
Uh-huh.
Then she married
She
Buddy.
married Eaton.
Yeah.
Was she born in Russia, your sister?
Yeah, she was born in Russia, yeah. And she had a big article written in years ago when the Oklahoma City paper come around, you know. They used to come around and ask people questions and things like that. It was the Oklahoma City paper one time. And her daughter got the rest of it now. When she died, you see, well, he couldn't keep it open.
Yes.
So she got it after he died. She got the rest of it then.
Yes.
And she worked when she was a little girl in the restaurant there, and she was going to sell it, but I don't know whether they sold it or not.
Well, I heard they were going to sell it too, but I don't know either whether
Yeah.
they've got it sold or not.
Her husband is her husband died. She married this other man, Pope. Pope is his name.
Yes, Pope.
And they're pretty well-to-do people, and he farms big. And he says, and his mother's still living on the farm. She said, we can go out there and visit Mom more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,